Now these gate flip overs, they're a good rig. You want to either make or buy the good ones. I'll tell you what makes a good one from a bad one. You want to make sure that the flat bar on them is at least 1 inch by quarter. Sometimes they go with 3/16 or 1/8 inch, and that's way too light. You need 1 inch by quarter, and then this is probably 5/16 round bar that's bent there. And the other thing you want to do is you want to have them so that they're bent in. You see how that's bent in? That way when the flip over flips over, everything clears and nothing binds up. Otherwise what happens is this part here will bind up with here, and this thing, it'll be a real pain in the butt. The bulls have been rubbing on this one, so it's a little bit cockeyed, but it doesn't take much to straighten it out. The trick is when you're mounting these, when you're building your corners, you see how the corner here is about 6 inches above. It needs to come over center, so always build your corners so that there's room for one of these to come over and land on that cross brace there. And I've never had one of these break built this way. Usually I heat this bar up red hot just to make that little bend there, and then I MIG weld a washer on the end. And the odd time they'll rub it and it'll flip over, but it doesn't really, the gate doesn't open. It just sort of is loose. If you had a horse or something, something might rub on it and flip it over. And if you're worried about that, you can always take a bungee strap or wire this down so that it doesn't get rubbed open if you got something that's got smart on how to open stuff like that. But I've had some of these in continual use for like daily use for 20 years, and the posts rot off and you just cut the nail. This is just a 6-inch Ardox nail that it's driven through and bent over on the other end. The post will rot off, and we'll just cut that off and we'll reuse the flipper. And yeah, they're great. Kids and people that aren't used to closing big heavy gates can, handle one of these without needing special tools or anything else. And I've seen ones with all kinds of fancy arms and stuff like that, but it's really not necessary. This is just a simple system here use just heavy material, because you're gonna, it's gonna be there forever. And when it's done on this post, it'll be going somewhere else. It'll probably be working long after I'm not. Get one and get your design so you kind of like it. And then I'd buy some material at the store and then make up 10 at a go and just have them sitting on the bench. And then I started replacing all my gates this way. And I don't have them all done. I've still got a couple sitting in the shop ready to go, but yeah, they're a good rig. I'll do the gate up here so you can see how it works. So you just put the gate through the rounded part there. You see it's all loose. And usually I drive a staple on the post here just so that if something happens, this doesn't get rubbed up over it. So everything's all nice and loose there. And then when you flip this over center, it just pops everything nice and tight. And if you're, this gate's a little loose anyways, but if your fence has been sitting for, a year, and your gate posts will be stretched, so everything is really super tight, you can usually get it onto the first round part here and then flip everything over, and you can tighten your gates up really easy. And yeah, these are good rigs. I haven't run into any better gate closing system on barbed wire gates ever. Certainly better than a rope or the wire and muscling it and all the rest of it. Yeah, here's one that I don't like. They work, but they're way overkill. You've got this fancy mechanism holding everything together, and it's rivets on there, and I think it's it's 1/8 by 1 inch bar by the looks of it. And yeah, they work, but they're not nearly as nice a flip over to use. The only reason I have it is because it came from somewhere, and I only use this gate about once every 3 years, and I needed to hold it shut, so that's why I have this thing on here. Yeah, here's another one. You can really see the bends here. There's 2 bends. You want to do that for sure so that the round parts will go over top, and I'll show you why in another one. Just flips it over and loosens everything off. And I've had bulls fighting and go right through the fence and tear the gates all to pieces, and everything, you know, just had a disaster, and everything was broken except the flip over. so yeah, these are pretty simple rig. So this flip over here, you can see it's straight. It doesn't have the bends in it like the other one does. It's been here forever. And what happens is when you go to flip it over, you can see it'll hit there or catch on the nail every time you go to use it. And people don't know how to use the gate or the flip over. They'll just keep reefing on it until they bend this thing until it's broken or bent up really bad. And yeah, you want to make sure you have the little kinks bent in there so that everything clears nice. Otherwise, it's very unsatisfactory. So don't do that. So here's an example of one that came off another fence line somewhere. I didn't make this one, but you can see how they've got that this bend in here. That would be if you didn't leave that 6-inch post sticking up above the cross brace. You would need something like that, but that's not necessary if you make your corners with the 6 inches sticking up. They use nice heavy material for this, which is good, but they got lots of extra bends in it. And the nice thing here is there's clearance between here and whatever goes through the post, so there's nothing wrong with this. They've got 1/4x1 flat bar, but they put a lot more work into it, I think, than is necessary. Here's another example. This one here, they've got nice heavy round bar, but they used 1/8 or 3/16, whatever that is, by 1. So this part here is too light. They did the bends good here, which is good, but because this is lighter, the bends aren't going to stand up so good to repeated abuse. And they've welded nuts on here, which likes to bind up on stuff. It's nicer if you can weld a flat washer onto it on the inside, just like that, and then that gives you that much more clearance. So between these 2 nuts, they're each 1/2 inch. That's 1 inch of clearance that doesn't need to be there. So this one, the design would be okay if this was a flat washer and they used heavier bar on this. But, and the measurements are good. This is a nice size. When you build your corners or your gate posts, this part here, you want it to be about 4 to 6 inches above this cross brace, and then you can put your nail on your flip over right in the middle of whatever that distance is there, and then your flip over will work pretty good. If you make it flush, then it won't work at all. So give yourself 6 inches is nice there for your flip over, and put the nail right in the middle and hang your flip over on it and enjoy.